You're listening to the Interconnect Hub podcast, powered by DataGryd. DataGryd is a premier data center provider located in the iconic 60 Hudson Street building. To learn more, visit www.datagryd.com. Enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome back to the Interconnect Hub. This is Doug Foresta. With me today is Greg Nugent. He is the CEO of Global InterXchange. And of course, Tom Brown, President and CEO of DataGryd, is here too. Gentlemen, Tom, Greg, welcome.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks so much for joining. Happy New Year to you. I'm excited to have you on, and particularly for our listeners. But if you could, for the audience, if you can just give a high-level overview of Global InterXchange and the exciting things that you're doing and the impact that you're going to have on the industry, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. First and foremost, thank you, Tom, for having me on this afternoon. On behalf of GIX, we're looking forward to a very, very promising and lucrative, but also rather unique 2020 for our organization over here. So what we're doing as an organization as a whole is, first and foremost, we took down the Southernmost Hudson River crossing. We have a lease with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, and PATH, which affords GIX the southernmost Hudson River crossing, which provides us with the lowest latency, the most diverse, and obviously the redundant Hudson River crossing that will ultimately tie in ultimately at 60 Hudson Street, the DataGryd suite here in Lower Manhattan, and then we'll pull all the way across the Hudson to 165 Halsey. This is the better part of the efforts of myself and my partners for going on 4.5 years now. We are looking at a 20-year plus relationship with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, and PATH. There are a number of different components to our crossing and different business segments and mediums that we are able to not only provide services to, but also become an extension of their infrastructure. And ultimately, it services a number of different emerging technologies, whether you're looking at Wi-Fi 6, AI, AR, Internet of Things, ultimately coming down the road here, hopefully in a couple of years, being 5G, being tested and terminated. But really, we're just excited to really have our first foray into the market being Lower Manhattan, and going to be more excited to have a partnership with both you, Tom, and your organization there at DataGryd.
So, Greg, that's awesome, and I certainly believe in your model. There's really two things that GIX brings to the marketplace. That's diversity and new glass. Can you talk about both and what they mean to the market?
Yeah, so the Port relationship alone is one that it was really where we sort of staked our claim coming into Lower Manhattan and ultimately having the ability to service multiples of business throughout, whether it be telecom, content, obviously other gaming tools in. Yeah, exactly. But really, when you look at new glass itself and with the crossing itself, there's a lot of fiber that's coming to end of life. There's a number of crossings that are north of our Hudson River crossing, whether you look at the Holland or you look at the Lincoln Tunnel. But even as you're looking in different parts, pulling into the eastern side of Manhattan with the new subsea cables that are being terminated soon, or one of them was just recently terminated by Aquacom's. Great job by that group over there. Shout out to Mike Sauer and his team. But what we really look at is being this aggregation hub, and where our glass and our model really fits in is that we are an extension of all these different groups and all these different mediums, whether you be looking at coming from the B2B side, or if it's more or less on the B2C, we're talking to groups, the bigger boys, the AT&Ts and the Verizons, but in the Crown Castles. Our ability to get in and to build these greenfield infrastructures, and again, that's important to us, is that everything we're bringing to the market, not just the crossing itself, but when we come into Lower Manhattan, right outside of the World Trade Center, the fiber that we're pulling up to 60 Hudson Street is a greenfield build. The extension that will go further north to 111 8th and loop back down to 32 A of A and come all the way through Lower Manhattan. And as you get across the Hudson River and go into New Jersey, we are looking at the QTS facility pulling into 165 Halsey, NY4 up in Secaucus, and ultimately going down to 1400 Federal. This is not new. This is not a new way of thinking. However, the way that we're delivering the fiber, the type of fiber itself, the fiber count especially is important. We're laying no less than 1,296 pairs of glass, not strands, but pairs. So coming into the market, we really are a bulk dog fiber provider. Now, if there's a groups that present day are looking for 24 pairs of dark, but they want to have their own separate inner duct reserve for growth for the next 3 to 5 years, and they're looking for a rather dense but robust footprint, that's where they can find, especially with GIX, in line with DataGryd at 60 Hudson Street. That's what was really important for us to choose that facility with you and your group, Tom, because again, not to wave your flag, but you're one of the only groups that will service our needs, but also our clients' needs going forward. This was built, the infrastructure was spec'd out and built, soon to be built with our partners at MCG, Metropolitan Communications Group. They've done builds for groups such as Facebook and DuPont Fabros. We're also working with Highland Construction, and Highland is second to none when it comes to working in the New York City market. We've aligned ourselves with those that are best in breed. So in the glass itself, glass is glass. However, when you look at where the glass ties in, the minimizing splice points, and then also looking at the edge and the Edge 2.0, these components were extremely of extreme value to us as we look to roll out our infrastructure in these different components. We're calling it components 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, Greg, you bring up really some great points that plays right into the DataGryd story of some leveraging these aggregation points. And think about 60 Hudson Street as evolving from years past into this data hub. But what GIX brings now to the marketplace, not only is diversity so critically important for the content guys, but a very diverse, broad audience, but also now pairing the Northeast New York corridor to some of these new cable landings, which, whether it's New Jersey, whether it's Virginia Beach, these are key components. Your asset is a key component for these routes that are so vitally important, not only from a diversity perspective, but also being able to manage the traffic appropriately. And when you bring that robust infrastructure into play, it has to be appealing to these guys that we have relationships and that you named. So I'm really excited to see you guys bring this to market and work with you guys to not only meet the needs of a diverse, broad audience, but also see what's next. Can you share with us anything else that you guys are doing that's coming down the road?
Well, again, there's a few things as it relates to our very close and tight-knit relationship with the Port Authority and PATH. There's ongoing conversation to continue to be a best-in-breed partner to them and to utilize their properties that not only, one, are in front of us present day, but two, we see being an extension of our infrastructure and short strokes here. I would like to be able to get into that, but unfortunately that'll have to wait for maybe another 2 to 3 months going out. But what I can also speak to in this moment directly in line with that is the ability to deliver to key markets where we're looking outside of just Lower Manhattan. So when you look at Boston, for instance, becoming Silicon Valley 2.0, that's something that's of keen interest to us in the coming, say, 16 to 24 months. As we look at even further south, as you spoke about going down to Virginia Beach and the like, it's working with groups like Gil Santalese and his company down there, tying into Wall Township, and then even going further out over the ocean, tying down to Virginia Beach, going into Ashburn. It's looking at finding different unique routes to even sort of circumvent groups that need to come into Manhattan, but also provide them that accessibility going further, say, southeast around the Jersey shoreline. But even when you look at the bigger financials and how that market is shifting with the big banks and trading houses, and where they're looking to bring a lot more things internally for their own use, is that we've been in conversation with some groups that we think are going to be very keen on using our fiber, our pathways, but also cutting off anywhere from 1.2 to 9 miles as you head further west out of Manhattan into these exchanges. So all these things are what are in front of us. But first and foremost, what matters is component one of our infrastructure, where we anticipate being in a position where going into the start of the Q3 this year, having broken ground, soon thereafter having that completed, going into the end of this year and looking at having component 2 done, which really allows us to get all the way as far west and northwest, if you will, as to NY4. And then as you go into, say, this time next year, having that component that will ultimately go further south and going south of 1400 Federal and tying into another completely unique part of our ring of our infrastructure that I think will be a game changer for the New York City metro market itself. But again, it's all about uptime. It's all about deliverability. And everyone speaks to this. It's under promise and over deliver. We're the mindset that we're going to continue to move the way that we move. The infrastructure itself will stand alone. But at the end of the day, it's about the customers and their level of happiness, but also the minimalized phone calls to us saying there's an issue here, here, and here. If we can make it so that it stands alone, obviously no infrastructure is beyond reproach. You always there's always going to be some hiccups, but if we can minimize that while also providing the most value to our customers, but also to our partners with DataGryd, then we've done our jobs.
I couldn't agree with you more, and this is quite exciting, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you so much for coming on, and we wish you all the best in 2020.
Likewise, Tom, and thank you again, and here's to a very fruitful and profitable 2020 for your group of mine. Thank you again. Take care.
You've been listening to the Interconnect Hub podcast powered by DataGryd. DataGryd is a premier data center provider located in the iconic 60 Hudson Street building. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you consume your audio. To learn more about DataGryd and the services they provide, visit www.datagryd.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.